Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time on Cloud Kingdom, and we have Nukkem in the top right corner playing the blue Zerg. In the bottom left, we have a red Protoss, which is BoneCarlos. BoneCarlos is in Platinum. I'm not sure what league Nukkem is in, but with red versus blue, it tells me it's probably on the ladder, probably a matchup of comparable skills. So I expect to see some heavy aggression out of the Zerg, maybe trying to deny BoneCarlos from getting up in the expansions, giving him the second but preventing the third. I don't know. Cloud Kingdom's really fun as far as expansion goes. The natural is so well protected with this narrow wall off. We can see BoneCarlos already throwing down that pylon, maybe for Forge Fast Expand, maybe for Dual Gateway Expand. One way or another, though, he's going to be looking to complete this wall off and take a natural there. The third, though, is so exposed here. You've got this wide open pathway leading down to the common ground, and then you have this enormous kind of third pathway into it. It's kind of a back road that you have to take. It slightly delays your aggression, but it's one more area that you have to defend if you're trying to take your third. And then, of course, the pathway up here, you have to run by the wall off, but it's still another way in, another place that you have to defend. So the third's very exposed, as is the fourth. But that way it kind of favors a more map controlling style of gameplay. If you can control and contain your opponent, then you feel free to take as many expansions as you want to. But if you can't, it's kind of a nervous position to be in whenever you have that third. We can see that a spawning pool is coming up for Nukkem before his hatchery, even though he's got his drone and he's got his money. So that's going to go down. Just pool first, being a little bit more cautious against a Protoss player who might be trying to do a cannon rush, especially with that forge already up. Wall off is almost complete. We'll need another structure right here, or more likely a zealot, just to complete it before they get that nexus down. BoneCarlos has not thrown down any pylons or anything like that, so he's not going to try for a denial of this hatchery. You'll see sometimes people come up here and throw down a pylon to prevent the taking of that third. Actually, with this probe placement, you can hide a cannon behind the mineral lines, and you can wall it in with a pylon. It could be that he's just trying to hide his probe, though, for later aggression. We will have to keep an eye on that as we proceed. Nexus does come down for BoneCarlos without a cannon at the front door, so a little ballsy on that, but he saw that an expansion was taken by Nukkem, and that if there were a bunch of Zerglings coming out, he expected that he shouldn't have too much trouble with dealing with the aggression. Now cannon is coming down. It's going to complete that wall off. So those Zerglings, when they do show up, we saw that one was already on the field. They're not going to be able to do a run by or anything like that. Actually, we have a Zergling doing a little scout by, and with that probe hidden, he didn't get scouted, which is fortunate because now a pylon does come down for BoneCarlos. It looks like he's going to hide a photon cannon behind there, and it looks like you have a little bit of a gap right here for a Zergling to attack that photon cannon, but it's totally tight. And then once you throw that down, it kind of forces the probe out, and you don't lose the probe. BoneCarlos has to be a little bit careful here, because if he throws down the photon cannon a little early, then all the player has to do is cancel it and throw down at the fourth instead. Yeah, it's a little bit more exposed, but you don't lose the cannon, the hatchery to the cannon. With the range, though, the vision, he did spot the pylon before the hatchery actually went down, but once it turned into a hatchery, he couldn't spot the photon cannon, so he wasn't aware that it was there until that Zergling just now came up to it. Looks like the hatchery's a little over halfway done. Nukkem should cancel that before the hatchery goes down to recoup some of that loss. See a gateway coming out for BoneCarlos, pretty standard right now, just a transition. He's succeeded in getting up his natural. He's succeeded in putting on just a little bit more pressure on Nukkem, keeping him uncomfortable. No tack, no gas coming out of Nukkem as he's attempting to deal with this photon cannon. We can see 6 Zerglings are on the way. That's not going to be enough to take down the pylon and the photon cannon unless there's other Zerglings already on the field. Yeah, just 7. However, the hatchery's only in half health. Still a little bit of time. He could make one or two more sets of Zerglings. Let's see how much damage they can do. Yeah, no, just 3. going down. A little bit of structural damage, but that pylon's going to stay up. And unfortunately, with Nukkem not canceling this hatchery, he's going to take a economic blow. You can cancel that and reposition it somewhere else with little to no loss. Or you could just cancel it, use that money to get up the Zerglings that you need to take down that, and get a delayed third. Again, not the biggest loss. We can see the BoneCarlos, though, getting the Cyber Core up, as well as 2 gateways. Just transitioning over to a 3-gate with that wall off already made, and with the hatchery just about to go down. BoneCarlos knows that he's bought quite a lot of time, and he significantly delayed that 3-based roach play, which is what Nukkem seems to be going for. A lot of players will wait to get their gas until they get their expansions up. With an Evo chamber on the way, just a single Evo chamber, probably just for 1 upgrade, maybe just to detect anything that might be coming out of BoneCarlos, but I think the Roach Warren is really what that gas is going to be spent on as it goes up. Interestingly, out of BoneCarlos, we have 2 Robo Bays coming up. Maybe, if I'm lucky, we get to see a mortal drop play. I love Immortals in a Warp Prism. That's awesome. You get, a map like this where you have a Zerg player kind of expanding into different locations. He's already assured that Nukkem, if he's going to take a third, is going to have to take a third in an awkward position where it's difficult to reinforce very quickly. 1 Immortal on the way and an Observer. If the next thing that's built is a Warp Prism, then we could see some Immortal drops, and 2 Immortals dropping in a probe line equals a lot of dead drones. So, that's fingers crossed for that. Another good thing is if he continues to create Immortals, we've got 2 coming up now. Those Immortals are going to hard counter the Roaches. So that might force Nukkem to get more gas and switch up to the Infestor Zergling mix, which would be more effective, more cost effective against a heavy Immortal ball. But that's something that BoneCarlos can also, once he goes out and sees what type of unit composition is on the field with that first Observer, which is making its way into the base, seeing the Roaches now. Once he sees that if Nukkem decides to go the route of Zergling Infestor, all he needs to do is throw down a Robo Bay, a robotics support facility, and get out some Colossus, and then all of a sudden he's got another hard counter to that build. Finally, BoneCarlos's Photon Cannon goes down to the Roaches, but the Immortals are now revealing themselves to the front door. Those Zerglings were just taking down some destructible debris. Surrounds are going to be very key, and that's another cool aspect of this map. You have these chokes, which can be widened by taking down the destructible debris, and so if BoneCarlos can get his army wedged in these chokes, preventing a perfect wall off, it can really negate a lot of the advantage that the Zerg has. With all these Roaches coming out, he's already going to be in a lot of trouble with the Immortals. Yeah, we have 2 here, 2 more coming in, and a 5th out, 6, 7, 8 Immortals. 8 Immortals are going to just absolutely ravage these Roaches. They do like 55 damage with the +1 upgrade, which I think is done now. Yeah, +1 armor and +1 weapons. 55 damage versus Roach, which means they 3-shot them. Oh, man. With 8 Immortals, they're going to be able to destroy every single one of these Roaches, even if those Roaches get a good surround. Nukkem knows that some Immortals are out. He doesn't know that there's 4 already out and more on the way. So what Nukkem needs to do is start scouting more. This Overlord could have been positioned down here to check out that front door, and he needs to do a Suicide Overlord to realize that there's 2 Robo Bays up, mass producing those Immortals. A tech switch would be awesome. A lot of Zerglings can get the surrounds, especially with this army on the exposed pathway. We have the Infestor Pit coming up, so I think Nukkem knows that he's going to have to do that tech switch up. But with these Immortals coming into this extremely exposed third, it's going to go down instantly. Fortunately, we can see that Nukkem has a 4th now up at the 3rd location, so those drones are just going to be able to transfer right up there and get right back to mining, so there's not a lot of money lost. But with the aggression that BoneCarlos is having in the main field, this Nexus is going to be able to go up at the 3rd, and the economic advantage that Nukkem expects to have at this moment as a Zerg on this map with 3 base, he doesn't have, because Protoss also has the same level. That observer is going to be scouting that there's a lot of delicate roaches to these immortals, and this is that choke that BoneCarlos really wants to attack in. He's got the immortals right in the lead, and they're going to be able to absolutely destroy these roaches if this is where the attack takes place. Neither player really wants to commit. I think BoneCarlos should push with this choke there, just so he can do damage to those roaches, but it looks like BoneCarlos is going to back up and maybe poke up at the third. He knows that this was taken again as soon as the cannon went down. More roaches on the way. It looks like Nukkem is deciding to kind of double down on the roaches, which is a mistake because you can see that they're just not doing enough damage, and BoneCarlos is getting up even more immortals. I'm hesitant to actually check what the actual number is. 12. It's going to be 12 as soon as, or 13 now. 13 immortals. Oh my goodness. So that's a huge number of immortals. Frankly, I think that we can just sit back. I mean, he's close to max. These roaches coming out, finally getting their surround, but with all these immortals in the front, you can just see this army melting away. The supply going from almost max down to 120, 100. All of a sudden, this army is completely gone. How many immortals, if any, did he lose? He lost 3. 3 immortals with 10 more on the field. These roaches, he's not going to be able to supply enough. That was game. It really came down to these needed to be built instead of these, and that pathogen glands research could have been done a little bit sooner. It just shows you what happens when you get hard countered. That's intimidating, though. I mean, even a good Zergling Infestor play would have had a hard time against all those immortals. Maybe a counterattack would have been very successful. I mean, look how exposed this is, and with the main front door, and then you've got the side door over here, and this is wide open. A Zergling run by really would have prevented BoneCarlos from being able to fully attack. It would have turned into a base trade, and it would have been anybody's game because of all the expansions, of all the money both players had the ability to expand. So Zergling run by would have been cool. Zergling Infestor would have been groovy. I don't know what else. If you guys know a hard counter to this mass immortal play, that'd be really cool if you could tell me. All right, so that's it for me. BoneCarlos, thanks for posting this, boss. If you guys have anything to say, you could post a comment here or Reddit. If you have a game you want me to cast, you could PM me here or Reddit, one way or another. I will see you guys later. I am Big and Scary. Bye.